I've obviously been traveling around to a bunch of different college football programs over the last several weeks with a search of ball knowledge. I am traveling the globe, or at least this hemisphere, in search of as many different programs that will open their doors to me and allow me to just absorb football knowledge for several days. Just got back in town from a 3-day trip with a certain program. I swore myself to secrecy because the last thing I want to do is go to another program that knew I was at one program that may or may not happen to have them on the schedule and then be like, hey bro, what'd you see? And then put me in an awkward position. So I'm not talking about where I'm going. I do want to share with you guys some of the things that I have learned from this visit. The last program, man, I can't speak to how much they allowed me to do and how intimate they allowed me into their program. Spent 3 days sitting in everything from staff meetings to player meetings to position meetings to team meetings to practice to weights. Everything that involved that football program, I got to see it up close and personal, and I left with so much knowledge, most of which I'm going to relay to you right now. So I got a board over here that I've written down a bunch of what I'm calling coach-isms. All right, we're going to talk through some of these coach-isms right now. My favorite being this one right here. Bring your belly button. Bring your belly button. Now, when I played offensive line, guys, and if you've ever been in a position meeting and they're ever talking about blocking, what's the number one thing they say, Kirby?
Use your hips.
Bring your hips. Got to bring your hips. Bring your hips. Bring your hips. Now, here's the problem with that, all right? If I were to take 2 rods or 2 belt buckles, right, and pull my hips forward, I get into this position. Hey, yo, I get into this really compromised position where I'm trying to extend my hips. I've now lost my glutes, okay? I don't have my backside hardly at all when I extend my hips. Now, I hear that all the time. Coaches talk about bring your hips, bring your hips. But it gets us into this real funky position where this ain't strong. This ain't strong at all. However, if my hips stay engaged, if my glutes stay engaged, and I bring my belly button, if I bring my belly button and get good foot fire on my way, I'm not in this weak ass position. I'm in this strong position, ready to catch that power clean bar that we talk about so much on this channel. So I freaking love that, man. Bring your belly button. Bring your belly button. Obviously came from an offensive line coach. The other one that came from this offensive line coach, the battle for the breastplate. That's what we're in a fight for. Every single time we snap the football as line of scrimmage players, we're in a battle for that breastplate. If I can get to that chest, you are compromised. I've got you pinned. Hey, quit laughing. All right. Quit laughing in the chat. Quit making inappropriate jokes in the chat. We're talking ball. Wait till I talk about the nut stunt. Y'all are going to lose your mind. You're going to lose your damn mind. So lock in right quick. None of that bull crap going on in the chat. We're running a position meeting right now. Lock in. All right. Battle for the breastplate. Love that. We got to get to it. We got to win that battle for the breastplate. These are 2 coverage terms you're going to start hearing on the network every once in a while. Mush. We are man-to-man unless that player goes shallow. Reason being, if a guy goes shallow on one side, probably mirrored on the other side. So if one goes away real shallow, one's probably coming back. Let's wait for that. You are man-to-man unless he goes shallow. Now, that's mush coverage, all right? Might be in cover 1 mush. If we're in cover 1 meg, what do you think? We are cover 1 man everywhere he goes. That is what MEG stands for. If you hear me talk about MEG coverage, that's what we're talking about. Ooh, Stabuda. I love Stabuda. Offensive line group I saw at one of my stops broke it down on Stabuda. Any guesses on what Stabuda stands for?
I don't even want to make a guess.
No guesses? Shove the ball up there. Yeah? Stabuda. I love that. Hey, Stabuda on 3, Stabuda on me. 1, 2, 3.
Stabuda.
That boy, they're coachable. They're coachable. 2 to the field, back away equals double slant. Let's go to the board. All right, this is a good little detail I picked up from a defensive coach. Okay, a defensive backs coach. All right, so a lot of teams nowadays running my favorite play, zone beater, FIB, flood into the boundary. Now, how do we line up in flood into the boundary? Most teams put it in trips. Some teams do it out of duo using the back in the equation. So if I have an H over here and a, let's call that an X, right? And I have the Z over here with the slot receiver over here. Ball is on the right hash, gentlemen. Right hash. So the field is way over here, right? These guys are all the way spread out. All right. If we get back away 2 to the field, we are keying double slants on this side because they're probably running their zone beater over here. Okay, they're probably swinging the back, trying to put our zone into conflict over here while running the double slants on the backside. Georgia does this a little bit differently. Some teams do this a little bit differently. They run the double bender on the backside. We've seen that a lot from Georgia, okay? So that's one thing that I'm going to be paying attention to this fall. If I see, hey, back away into the boundary, 2 to the field, we're probably keying double slants on the backside. You got a question?
Do they go into what quarterback progression is in this play like this?
We're always going to read zone beaters first, come back to the man, unless we get man indicators across the board. Okay? If we get man indicators across the board, probably starting with the man side, going to go ahead and get to the winner. The number one read in that progression is the number one wide receiver. Reason being, any guesses why we don't want to read this in to out if we're reading the double slant side?
Linebacker.
Red, boy, he's a smart football observer over there. CBK sitting in the stage over there. So yeah, that's what we got over there. We got a double slant indicator on the backside of 2, or a back away, 2 to the field. All right, so let's erase that. Let's go back to the coach-isms. Now, Nat. Ooh, love Nat coverage. Nat, nickel always travels. Makes sense, right? Nickel always travels. So this is a great way teams are now disguising man and zone coverage. We're going to travel the nickel with whatever motion they bring us. When he gets over there, he's going to squat into a hook curl zone, or what we're going to talk about here in a little bit, an FPS dropper. Can't wait to explain that one to you guys as well. Now, this is a zone term that we learned. You're going to hear about in this or on this network, right? The dead spots. What are the dead spots? All right. If we're running a zone coverage, there is a portion of the field that we're not accounting for. Right here. There is a portion of the field that we're not accounting for. That is what we're going to call from now on a dead spot in the zone. So if we're running true quarters, guys, if we're running true quarters and we're dropping, all right, we're dropping all of our corners and our safeties into quarter zones, okay? Into quarter zones. I'm going fast here. Follow with me. If we get a ball checked down underneath our coverage into a dead spot into the zone, we have won. We're conceding that. All right, so as a defense, when we see the ball get checked down into a dead spot, we're going to mark dead spot down and a check into the defense. Now, what's key when we get a ball to a dead spot?
Tackling.
We got to rally and tackle. That's daggum right there. Way to be paying attention in the class, son. All right, now, know the level rush. This is something we talk about on this network every once in a while, right? Manipulating the launch point. What is the launch point? It is the place with which the quarterback is throwing the football. So let's go back to the board. Now, this is an offensive line term, particularly with tackles. Now, guards can get put in this situation too, but it's really common with our offensive tackles, all right? So let's draw out the setting. Now, if we're in a 4.5 yard shotgun, right? That's where we're lined up. 4.5 yards from the feet of the center. If we're at 4.5 yards, we take a 3-step drop. We're at about 7.5 yards, right? That is what we call the level rush. That is the level with which the defense is rushing to. So now, if I'm a left tackle and I'm kicking into my set, I'm 2.5, 3 feet into my kick set. We're now running this guy past the level of the launch point. Once this end gets past the level of the launch point, what does he have to do?
Spin back inside.
He has to spin back inside. So if I, as a left tackle or a right tackle, if I am aware of the level rush, when he gets to that point, when he gets beyond the level rush, he has to spin back inside. So if I'm aware of that as an offensive lineman, I am going to be aware and conscious when he goes to spin. I'm not going to be caught off guard as long as I know where the level rush is. Now here's the key. If I'm rolling the quarterback, right, and the launch point's over here, now our level rush has changed, right? At right tackle, it's become much, much shorter on us. At left tackle, it's become much more elongated for us, okay? So we have to identify the level rush, or as I would coach it, hey, can we be aware of where the launch point is, gentlemen? Can we be aware of where our quarterback is releasing the ball, where we're trying to ultimately set up that pocket? All right, now, the last one on the board today before we go to the actual life lessons I got for you guys today that I learned from the football community, all right? Love bringing that back to you guys. FPS droppers. Now, this was a void in my knowledge. All right, this is a void in my knowledge. I used to call every underneath curl player a hook curl player. So what you've heard me talk about on this network a ton. All right, but there's a different level to this. This is elevated. We have FPS zone droppers nowadays. Force, peel, slant droppers. Let's talk about it on the board. All right. So if this is particularly against RPO situations, guys, we got to have somebody to play all three types of deals. So if I have a quarterback and a running back over here, and let's call this the Willie. All right, if I got the Willie right here, let's call him an FPS dropper just so I can explain what this is. His first responsibility is going to be a force player. If we see run, we got to set the edge. We got to be a force player into the equation. Now, if we go to check the force and they're not running the ball in the back, we're to peel. We now have to run with that guy on the peel. All right, if we check the run, it's not a run. We check the back, he doesn't peel. Next thing we know, we're going to drop up underneath the slant window and get up underneath this. You can see why this would be effective against RPO teams. Mm-hmm. What were you going to ask?
So this is typically something you're going to see ran in cover 3 when the flats are typically open. You're not going to have a corner sitting there because there's probably not a lot of need for an FPS dropper when you have a corner sitting.
To be honest with you, Kirby, as much teams that I visit with nowadays that are running cover 4 or some type of cover 4 match or some type of cover 4 press or some type of cover 4 bail, and how many teams are running cover 3 like you mentioned, the flat's almost always open.
Pretty much.
All right, the flat's almost always open. We want to force checkdowns. This is a great way to make sure, hey, if a back does peel, we're going to be there. Now, if this were to happen, let's say we've got a simulated pressure walked up here, Kirby. Let's say we erase this Will and all his responsibilities. Now, let's say we got a simmed pressure. Let's say we got a nose walked up. We got an end over here, an end over here. We got a backer over here and a backer over here. Now, both of these guys are probably going to be FPS droppers. Mm-hmm. Whoever's to the back has to be ready for a forced peel or slant. Okay, so if you see this guy peel immediately after rushing, that's exactly why he's a peel player.
This is what you saw a lot from Nolan Smith during his time in Georgia. Chaz Chambliss did a lot last year. I'm pretty sure that's what Nolan Smith did when he got the tip, or Trayvon Walker did it when they tipped the pass against Anthony Richardson against Florida, where he basically saw that its pass dropped.
It's not just Georgia. Everybody that's running sim pressures, which is almost everybody, particularly on third down, has what we call an FPS player, a force peel slant player. You know, I knew it was going to be worth it. I knew this journey across and all this travel was going to be worth it. I didn't think it was going to be this worth it. I have so much, even more, that I can't bring to you, all right, because of actually maybe how guys are teaching stuff. I don't want to blow up anybody's spot. Now, let's go back to the desk. I've got some stuff that I've written on my board that I'm now going to live by, and I think maybe some of this could help you guys out as well in your day-to-day opportunities and your day-to-day operations, wherever you might be. Now, Kirby, don't zoom in on this stuff too much, okay? Don't zoom in on this stuff too much, but let's go through it. I'm going to leave my mic on because I'm going to turn away from the board here. Turn away from the microphone. All right, so.
Sword.
Some of you guys might know, wield your sword, ladies and gentlemen. Some of you might know, I put a bunch of stuff up on this board that means a lot to me. There's a video on my Twitter feed that shows all of the stuff that's been up here for years. Some of this stuff just got added, like this one right here, man. I love this quote right here. I'd rather be consistently good than occasionally great. Can I get a thank you? Can I get a thank you? I'd rather be consistently good than occasionally great. All right, that's gold stuff right there. Consistency is a major key. Also love this one. Inputs reflect thinking. Thinking reflects output. If we're putting a bunch of trash in our head, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have trash thinking. If we got a bunch of trash around us, getting into our environment, we're going to have trash thinking. If we have trash thinking, we're going to have terrible outputs. I'm telling you that right now, period, point blank. That is football. That is life. That is everything. Inputs reflect thinking. Thinking reflects output. Love that one a lot. Let's see here. To be coached is to be loved. How about that one? If I'm coaching you hard, it's because I love you, son. Okay, don't shy away from coaching. If to be coached is to be loved. I love that. That's everywhere. Don't waste the day because someone has disrupted your peace. Come on now. Don't just throw away a day because someone pissed you off early in the morning, man. Let that go. Let it go. Get it out of your headspace. Now, I don't often bring to this board things that I have created. All right, but this weekend, I thought of something that I think is important, and I will live by, right? We got to have urgency through obsession. Okay, we got to be able to create a sense of urgency about ourselves because we are obsessed with being great. All right, can't nothing get put off till tomorrow because I got to be great today. Do we understand that?
Sounds like
urgency through obsession. I've got to be obsessed about what I'm doing. That's what creates urgency. I got to do it now. It's got to be done. Let's go. Got to have a sense of urgency about yourself or you'll never go anywhere, man. I truly believe that. What else do I got on here? Perfection is a myth. Progression is reality. Come on now.
That's probably my favorite one.
Come on now. Perfection is a myth. Progression is reality. I love that, man. So much good shit being learned on this journey. Oh, we forgot to talk about nut stunts, didn't we?
We did.
Let's go back to the board. Let's go back to the board. I am giddy, ladies and gentlemen. I am giddy. All right, so we talk about run stunts a lot. When we watch film study, we're like, man, I ain't seen so many run stunts like this when I was playing ball. How do we handle all this? All right, a lot of nose and tackle stunts that we see a lot, right? Got a nose and a tackle over here. Also saw a new way to draw the offensive line. How about that? How quick and efficient is that? It's a little lopsided, but that's the way they do it at some schools. All right, especially DB coaches. All right.
No, they don't care about it.
No, they don't. All right, so let's say we got a nose and we got a tackle here. Now, we've seen a lot of times nowadays, guys, the nose will slant across that guy's face and the tackle's wrapping over, or vice versa. The nose is wrapping over and the tackle's going underneath, right? We got a nose and we got a tackle. We got the tackle going way over and the nose going over the top, right? So what are these stunts actually called in the football world? Nose under tackle.
Oh.
Nose under tackle.
Nut.
Tackle under nose.
Ton.
We got a nut and a ton.
You nut a ton.
Ton of nut. You know?
Yeah.
Now, here's what's funny. You go sit into a DB meeting room, okay? And the coach is talking about, hey, man, you can't let this guy get in your face. Hey, man, you can't let this guy come in your chest. And immediately, hey, yo, pause, coach. What are you doing, coach? Whoa, hey, yo. You go to a offensive line meeting room, coach talking about, daggum it, you busted on the nut. What? No, not a word said. Yes, sir, coach. I'm sorry, coach. I messed that up, coach. My bad, coach. Just two different philosophies.
It is funny how different offensive and defensive cultures are.
Yeah.
Like you see the memes every now and again. It's like the offensive coordinator versus defensive coordinator. It's like a very sleek, well-dressed guy versus a guy who's just wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Like,
Hell yeah.
It's so true.
Hell yeah.
That was fun.
Ball.
A lot of ball.
Do we have any more?
You know what I learned most importantly? And it's where this urgency through obsession came from. I'm actually reading Nick Saban's book, one of his many. This is one he wrote after the first LSU title, and I thought it was really, really neat. And Kirby, you've been in football rooms in preseason where coach sends the players off and says, all right, bring me back team objectives, right?
Yep.
Player-led team objectives. And on every team I ever played with, the number one objective always is what?
Win a championship.
Win a championship, right? And he said going into the 2003 season, he was really worried about his team's leadership. Didn't know who his leaders were going to be. Didn't know what it was going to be. Didn't know if he had a vocal leadership pool at all. And he gets back the team objectives, and not one of them had anything to do with winning, but all of them had everything to do with the process of winning.
Ooh.
You follow me here? I feel like, myself included, I feel like way too many people talk about their dreams. They're obsessed with their dreams. They're obsessed with where they want to go, but nobody's obsessed with the process to get there. Nobody cares. Nobody is waking up every single day obsessed with how they're going to get where they're going. They wake up every single day wanting to go where they want to go. All right. So until you become obsessed with the process, the results will always be varied. That's what I learned in chapter 1 of that book. I can't wait to continue to delve in.
It's the journey, not the destination.
All that cliche stuff. And I've heard all those things before. I never really applied them to myself. I don't know if people get as much out of those things as I do, but I pretty much live my life by things that football coaches have said, and I think a lot of them apply to general life in holistic viewpoints.
Yeah. I mean, all you need is one person to get something from it, and you've done your job.
I like that.
Much less you getting something from it.
I like that.